Welcome to the latest installment of the 30-Minute Workout Series. My name is Jeff Bartels, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Jerry Bartels and Angel Espinosa. Alan Gilbert is still enjoying some vacation. In today's session, we are going to be exploring Civil 3D's quantity takeoff tools. If you're unfamiliar with the 30-minute workout concept, this is something that we put together for the purpose of talking about and demonstrating tools and workflows that aren't covered during traditional training courses. Our goal in putting together these sessions is to help speed up the learning curve for folks and help them make the most of their Autodesk investment. We do have some ground rules for these sessions. First of all, many of the examples that we show are going to be abstract in nature, and we do that on purpose. This way we can focus solely on how a tool functions. Once you understand how the tool works, you can apply it in whatever situation works best for you. Since we're only together for 30 minutes, our commitment is to always start and end on time. Don't worry about taking notes during these sessions. The sessions are always recorded. Anybody who has registered for the sessions will get access to a recording. If you have questions during the sessions, please put that in the Q&A pane. That is the most efficient way for Jerry and Angel to find and respond to questions. In the event we don't get to all the questions by the end of the session, we will get back to you with an answer. One more thing, if you'd like to have a one-on-one call with one of us regarding the topics that we cover during these sessions, please put that in the Q&A pane as well. We'll get that scheduled. We always enjoy speaking with other users. So our agenda today, we're going to take a deep dive look at the QTO Manager. That stands for Quantity Takeoff. That's Civil 3D's vehicle by which we load pay items, assign them to the objects in our model, and then extract them into reports. We'll look at how to load pay item files. We'll look at how to create our own files if we want to. We'll look at how we can create custom formulas to convert between units when necessary. We'll look at how we can extract quantities into reports. We'll also look at how we can automate things by preloading pay items on parts lists for utilities and code set styles used for corridors. Since we only have a half hour, we don't have time to do justice to the entire QTO topic. So at the end of the session, I'm going to share some additional resources where you can get even more information about this topic. As always, this is going to be a PowerPoint free zone. We'll be working live in the application for the duration of our time together today. Okay, let me drop out of this. If you look at the top of the screen, you can see I am currently using Civil 3D 2023. That said, everything that we look at today is going to work for you regardless of the version of Civil 3D that you may be using. We're going to start out by talking a little bit about Civil 3D pay items. When it comes to pay items, they are managed using three files. There's a pay item file, a categorization file, and a formula file. At first glance, that may seem a little more complicated than it needs to be. It's really quite easy. Let's take a look. If I'd like to leverage pay items, I'm going to go to the Analyze ribbon tab, and then I'll come down to the QTO panel. From here, I'll click to open the QTO Manager. This is the dialog box where we load our pay item list. This is where we can review it and assign it to objects and extract those quantities into, or extract those pay items into a report. Now, right now, this dialog box is empty. That's because I need to load a pay item file. I'll do that by clicking this menu in the upper left corner. I'll choose Open Pay Item File. Note that pay item files are CSV files. That means it's very easy for us to create our own pay item files. We'll look at how to do that in just a little bit. When it comes to the pay item file that we'll use for right now, I'm going to click the Open button. And if this is the first time you've ever accessed this feature in Civil 3D, it's going to take you to this Getting Started pay item file. This is installed with the application. You can see the path to it right here. And this is a sample pay item list that you can explore and reverse engineer if you want to. I'm going to click Open, and we'll go that far for right now. Let me click OK. And when I do, you can see that the pay item list has been loaded. You can see the pay item ID in this column. We can see the description for the pay items here, and then we can see the units over on the right. If I grab this slider and drag down, we'll find that this is a very comprehensive list of pay items. There are thousands of pay items in this list. Whenever you're dealing with a pay item list this substantial, it may be beneficial to organize the list into groups. That is what the categorization file does. Let's look at that. Once again, I'm going to open this menu and I'll choose Open Pay Item File. This is where we were before. After I select my pay item file, I can come down to Pay Item Categorization File. Let's click to Open. And I'm going to go into that same directory that's installed with Civil 3D. We'll go into Getting Started. And you can see Civil 3D includes a Getting Started categorization file as well. Note that this is an XML file. The XML file is used to define the categories and organize the pay items based on their ID. Now, creating the categorization file is beyond our scope for right now. Having said that, Civil 3D includes a tutorial that walks you through that process, and I'll show you where that is at the end of today's session. I'm going to grab the categorization file and I will click open. Now that I've selected both of these files, when I click OK, you can see that very large pay item file has now been reduced down and it's simplified. It's organized by division, group, and section. Now, when we load a categorization file, you can turn the categorization on and off using this menu to the right. I'm going to turn that off for just a second, and you can see I can now see that raw pay item list. You may be wondering why you'd want to turn off your categorization. We do that because it makes it much easier if I'm searching for a particular pay item. There happens to be a search field at the top. I can use this to type in text strings. As an example, I'm going to type asphalt, and I'll press enter. And since it's not categorized, it's showing me all of the pay items in one single list that include that text string. Now, this pay item list is nice, but it's a little too expansive for what I'd like to use for today's session. And I'd like to actually walk you through how to create your own. So let's do that. I'm going to close the panorama and I'm going to come down to Microsoft Excel here for a second. In Excel, you can see that I have opened that Getting Started CSV file. In here, you can see the columns for the pay item ID, description, units. You can see that there's other columns defined here as well. These are for informational purposes only. If you're going to make your own pay item list, these extra columns are unnecessary. In fact, Civil 3D will ignore them when you insert the pay item file. So you only need to worry about these three columns. Pay note to the headers at the top. We'll want to use the same headers when we're creating our own pay item list. I'm going to jump to another version of Excel. And you can see in this case, I'm using those same headers. I have made up my own pay item IDs just for the purpose of this example. I've also created some descriptions, and I have copied some of the units over from that original file. When I finished creating this, I came down and said Save As, and I saved it as a CSV UTF-8 comma delimited file. Okay. We're going to use that file now. I'm going to jump back over to Civil 3D, and we'll close this drawing. Now, let me say, if you do export a CSV file from Excel, I have found on some occasions when I go to open that in Civil 3D, sometimes it doesn't open. If that happens to you, open the file in Notepad first and then resave it. I've found that usually strips off whatever residual Excel information may still be there that's preventing the file from opening. Okay, I am in a new drawing here. I am going to go back to the QTO Manager. Let's go to Open Pay Item File, and then I'll click the Open button. And I'm going to open that pay item file that we just looked at. And when it comes to categorization, I really don't have enough pay items to warrant the categorization. So you can see in some cases, the categorization file is kind of optional. I'm not going to use one here. I'll just go ahead and click OK. And you can see my pay items listed here on screen. Now, when it comes to pay items, you can assign these to anything in Civil 3D. You don't have to assign the pay items to just civil objects. They could be assigned to AutoCAD entities if you want to. In fact, I'm going to be doing that in this example. Let me also mention that when we extract the pay items into quantities, Civil 3D does three things. It can extract the items as a total item count, a total linear measurement, or a total area measurement. Those are the three ways they're extracted. We're going to look at all three. Here, I have some circles. These are just AutoCAD circles that I created. Now, they could be Kogo points. They could be anything, blocks, doesn't matter. I would like to say in this case, they're light poles in a parking lot. If you look in my pay item list, I have a pay item here for light poles. The way we assign pay items to objects, there's a few ways to do it, but the way I prefer to do it is to select my entities first, and then I will come up and right-click on the pay item, and from the menu, I'll choose Assign Pay Item. In the command line, you can see that those pay items have been assigned. I'm going to hit Escape. If I hover over an object, you'll see the pay item displays in the tooltip, which is nice. Now, I've done that. Let's do an extraction real quick. If we come up to the ribbon, there's a takeoff button here. I'm just going to do a default summary report. We'll just come down and click Compute. Won't change any of the settings. And then when this dialog box comes up, you can see there's several ways we can view the report. I'm going to select HTML, and you can see the report right there. There's my pay item, light poles. There were 3 of them in this file, and we're extracting that as a total item count. Let's close this and this. Let's talk about a total linear measurement. In this example, I've got a couple of different entities. These are AutoCAD entities. I've got an arc with a arc length of 150 feet. I've got a line segment with a total length of 150, and I've got a polyline with multiple segments there that adds up to 150 feet. I do that because we can easily add that up and say that the total linear footage here would be 450. That way we can verify that when we do the extraction. That's what we're all about here, trust but verify. Let's assume that this geometry represents markings in a parking lot, like striping or something like that. You can see that I have a pay item here called pavement markings, type A solid. I am going to, same as before, I'll just select these. And then once again, they're AutoCAD entities, but these could be feature lines. They could be alignments, doesn't matter. It's just linear objects. I will right click on the pay item and I'll choose assign pay item. Let me press escape. If I hover, we can see the pay item's been applied. And then we'll do a quick takeoff here. I'll compute and we'll set this to HTML. And we can see that it extracted 450 linear feet of striping. We'll look at one more option here. What if I wanted to assign pay items to an area? I've got just some closed shapes here. These are AutoCAD polylines. And I've labeled the areas here, 2,500 square feet apiece. So if they were added together, that would be 5,000, just so that we can check that against the numbers that we get. If you want to assign a pay item to an area, Civil 3D applies the pay items to a hatch pattern. It's not applied to the object, it's applied to a hatch. The hatch is associative to the object, so if the object changes, the hatch updates, and the quantities would update as well. So the way this works, I'm just going to select one object in this example, and we'll say that these shapes represent islands in a parking lot. And maybe I would like to apply multiple pay items to this. I'd like to apply a pay item for sod and one for fertilizer. Notice, before I add these, that fertilizer will be extracted in square feet and sod will be extracted in square yards. So I've selected my first object. I'll select my pay item. I'll hold my shift key and select another. In the event the pay items are not adjacent, I could use my control key for that. I'm going to right click and I'll choose assign pay item to area. And then I'll come down, and this is just like creating hatch. It's saying select point or select object. I'll choose select object and I'll click this one and this one. And I'll press enter. I will then select one of these hatch patterns and I will display order this to the front, just so that I could hover over the edge and show you the two pay items associated with that hatch. So the hatch is what carries the pay items when we're doing an area. Let's do a quick takeoff on this. I'll choose takeoff, compute. I'll set this to HTML, and I can see for the fertilizer, 5,000 square feet, just like we expected. And then we can see that the sod actually was converted for us, and we can validate that here with Siri. I can say, hey, Siri, convert 5,000 square feet into square yards.
5,000 square feet is 555.56 square yards.
Perfect. Can't get any better than that. Let me close this, and I'll close this. Now, sometimes, well, let me say this. After seeing this, after seeing the different abbreviations and stuff used here and seeing how that did an automatic conversion, you may be wondering, what other abbreviations can I put in there? What am I allowed to put in there? I just copied those abbreviations from that other file. If I go to Windows Explorer, in that same pay item data folder that comes in Civil 3D, right here was getting started. That was where we grabbed the pay item file and the categorization. Notice there's a units folder here. If I open that up, there's an XML file called QTO units. I'm going to double click and just open that in Notepad momentarily. This shows you the unit abbreviations that can be used. So if I drag this down, you can see the abbreviation here, yard miles, LNFT for linear foot, AC for acre. So if you want to get an idea of some of the shorthand or abbreviations that you can use, that's where you can get them. Now, in some cases, like I mentioned here a second ago, the Civil 3D is going to pull your stuff as a total item count, total linear measurement, total area measurement. Sometimes you may want to pull a quantity that's tied to a volume or a weight or something like that. To do that, we're going to have to take one of these measurements and apply a formula to it. Let's say I'm going to delete these hatch patterns I created a second ago. We'll assume that these rectangles represent asphalt pads, and maybe they're 2 inches deep. I would like to find out how many tons of asphalt it would take to create those. So I'm going to generate a formula. To create a formula, I will click in the formula column And Civil 3D says formulas must be written to an external file. If you remember at the beginning, I said the pay items are managed with 3 files, the pay item file, categorization, and the formula file. This is where we're creating that formula file. Let me click OK. It's going to save that with an FOR extension. You'll want to save the formula file in the same folder as the pay item file and the categorization. Keep all 3 of them together. Let me click Save. The pay item formula dialog box looks a lot like the dialog box we use when we create expressions in Civil 3D. It works the same way. If I open this menu, you can see the number of functions that are available that you can use in your equations. If you have any questions about these, how do I configure these? How do I make these work? If we go to Help here, and I roll down a little bit, there's an option called Label Expression Functions. From here, I can see the proper formatting that would be used for each of those functions if I wanted to use it in an equation. And I can see a description over here as to how it works. So if you're interested in those, that's where you can get more information. I want to calculate tonnage. So I'm going to kind of space over here a little bit, and then I will open up the property. And here's where I can grab item count, length, or area. I want to base this on the area. Area will be default square feet. I'm going to take the square feet times 2 inches deep. So times 0.1666. And that will give me cubic feet. Then we'll assume that 1 cubic foot of asphalt weighs 145 pounds. So I could take this measurement times 145. That will give me total pounds. And then to convert that into tonnage, I can simply divide this by 2,000. Okay, you can make your computations as simple or as complex as you like. I'm going to click OK, and I know it worked because it jumped over here into the column. It also got saved to that formula file. If you do make a mistake, it will stop you and it'll highlight things in red. It won't let you write a bad expression. Another thing, if I was to create additional formulas in the future, now that I have a formula file, those will be added to that original formula file that I created. Let's try this now. I will select one of these objects. I'll right-click, assign pay item to area. I will then choose object, and I will click on this object and this one. I'll press enter. We'll go ahead and do a quick takeoff. Compute. And I can see 60 tons to create those 2 asphalt pads. Okay, let's close this and this. Now that we have an understanding of how the tool works, let's try and use it in a practical example. If I pan the drawing up, I have a drawing here that represents a site plan for a commercial site. If we zoom in, you can see some of the landscaping that I have here. I've inserted some blocks in this case that represent trees. We'll say that these blocks represent blue holly trees. And I happen to have a pay item for that. I'd like to assign that to all of these blocks. I'll start by selecting one of the blocks, and I'll right-click, and then I'll come down and choose Select Similar. That grabs all of those blocks. I will then come back and right-click on that pay item, and I'll choose Assign Pay Item. And that has been assigned to every one of these blocks. Let's also calculate the linear footage of the parking striping here. To select the parking striping, I'm going to mix things up a little bit. I'll go to the Home tab, and then I'll come down and say Isolate Layer, because all the parking striping is on the same layer. I'll select one of these and press Enter. I will then select all of them, and then I will right-click on my pavement markings, and I'll choose Assign Pay Item. When I'm finished, I'll press Escape, and then I will unisolate the layers. And if I hover over these, we can see how the pay item is assigned to all of those. One more thing, we'll do the fertilizer and sod for a couple of these islands just to demonstrate that. I'll select an island, and then I will hold my Shift key and grab a couple pay items, right-click. Now I'm going to choose Assign Pay Item to Area. Just want to show you that there are some other options in this menu as you're using the tool. Feel free to explore some of those. I'll choose Select Object here, and I will select this one and this one for right now. Now, before I pull my calculations, let me mention that you may be wondering, as you're creating hatch patterns like this, you may wonder if it's possible to control the appearance of that hatch. And we can. There is a Settings button here. If I click the Settings button and drag down to the bottom right here is where you can control the properties of hatch used to hold pay items. Okay, if I'm going to pull my quantities, usually I do that on the Analyze tab. Notice there's a button right here I can use to do my takeoffs. I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And we're going to do a summary report. Up until now, I've been extracting the quantities for the entire drawing. I don't have to. I can isolate my quantities to a particular sheet. This would work. I'd pull it on the sheet itself, and it would be for sheets created with view frames. That's how it works. In this case, I'm going to pull my quantities for a selection set. I'll click this green block. I'll back up and say, I only want to extract quantities for this area. Let me press enter. We'll choose compute. And then I will select HTML. And you can see 36 blue holly trees, 5,700 feet of pavement marking, 505 square feet of fertilizer, and 56 square yards of sod. Let's close this. Okay, as long as we're looking at the top of the dialog box, I showed you the takeoff button here. Note there are additional buttons here. I can use this one as another means of assigning pay items to objects or to areas. I could use this button to delete pay items from objects. I could use this one to edit the pay items that are on objects. There's a menu here that will let me highlight objects, whether they have pay items or not. So just some additional buttons. Feel free to explore those as you're playing around with this tool. Now let's talk a little bit about automation. Down here, I have a corridor model. Maybe I'd like to extract the total linear footage of curb and gutter. Maybe I'd like to extract we'll say that the top layer of asphalt here is 2 inches in depth. I'd like to extract the tonnage for the asphalt, for the roadway. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about code set styles and the importance of points, links, and shapes. I'm going to zoom in on one of these sections. If I hover over this point on the curb and gutter, I can see the point code is back of curb. Remember that these points create the longitudinal geometry for our curb and gutter. So what if I was to assign a pay item to that point code? I could use that to extract the linear footage of the curb. Likewise, we have a link from the crown of the road going to the edge of pavement. This link is named pave. If you remember, links are used to create surfaces or hatch patterns. I could use this link to determine the area of the pavement and then calculate my quantities for tonnage. Let's do that. I'm going to pan the drawing over. This is all done through the code set style. I'm going to select the corridor, and then I'll come up to corridor properties. And then in the corridor properties, if we go to the codes tab, right here, I can see all the current settings for points, links, and shapes. Now, this is nice, but I can't edit it here. I need to edit it here. This is the code set style that's assigned to this corridor. I'm going to come down and click edit. And if I go to point first, right here is that back of curb point. Notice for all of the points, I can come over and there's a column here for pay item. I'm going to click in the pay item column. And since I have a pay item list associated with this drawing, I can select a pay item for this point. I'm going to choose curb and gutter, and I'll click OK. But the way this ultimately should work, you assign your pay item files to your template. That way, all new drawings that you create will automatically have the pay items assigned or loaded in them. And then you can preload the pay items into your code set styles. This way, as fast as you create corridors, you can extract those quantities. That's ultimately where you want to go with this. I'm going to add one pay item here. And then we also talked about the link, that pave link, which represented the top of the road. If I take this down, I can click the pay item for that. And I'm going to go with the asphalt here. And I'm going to do one more thing. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how you could apply a render material to the roadway or a hatch pattern to the roadway. I don't have to apply hatch here, but I'm going to do it anyway, just so that you can see the area where that asphalt is going to be calculated. I'll choose this pave shape style. Let's click OK and OK. I'll rebuild the corridor. You can see that hatch pattern was applied. Let's go ahead and extract the quantities. I'm just going to click take off, choose compute. Oh, hold on one second. It would help if I had this set the entire drawing. We'll just do that. You can see it's computing down here in the lower right corner. We'll go to HTML, and I can see 2,240 feet of curb and gutter and 400 tons of asphalt. Actually, that's a little high because we had those 2 asphalt pads up above since we did the entire drawing. Okay, one more thing, getting dangerously close here. I've got some utilities in this file. I've got some storm sewer listed here. We can preload pay items in the parts lists that we use for our utilities. What I show you here is going to work for both gravity sewer and pressure network. I'm going to select a pipe here for a second, and I'll go to network properties. In the dialog box here on the layout settings tab, we can see the parts list that I'm using. Now I could edit the parts list over here in the tool space like we normally do. In fact, that would be the way I would do it in the template file. I would edit it there. This way, since I already have some stuff in the drawing, I'm going to edit it here. Let me click edit. And since I'm dealing with a gravity network, I've got the pipes tab and the structures tab. Here on the pipes tab, let me expand this and I'll go to concrete pipe. Here's all of my pipe options. Notice that there is a column for pay item. I'm going to apply a pay item to the 12-inch concrete pipe for this example. I will just come down and click the icon there. And I'll choose 12-inch RCP. And then I will go to structures. And for this example, I'll just go into the concentric cylindrical structures and we'll grab this first one. And I'll come down to pay item for this. And you can load more than one pay item if you want to. I've got a couple here that I'm going to apply just for this example. I'll click this one, hold my shift key and grab this one. And I'll click OK. At any point in the future, you can come back and click the pay item button and you can see the pay items that are assigned to these. You can add to them or remove if you want to. So once again, the goal is to preload these on your parts lists. That way, as you add your utilities, you can immediately do your extractions from there. Let me click OK and OK. Now, if you edit the parts list and there are already parts in the file, it's not going to update the ones that are already there. If I did a swap pipe, if I swapped this to something else and swapped it to the 12-inch, then it would. But for right now, if I did want to add these to existing, I would have to do it the more traditional way, like we looked at earlier, just like that. But if I add new utilities, for instance, if I grab a pipe here and I go up to edit pipe network, I can set my structure to concentric cylindrical. That's the one that has a pay item on it. And then I will select my pipe to the 12-inch concrete. That's the one that's got the pay item on it. And then I'm just going to draw some stuff here over to the side. I'll press enter when I'm finished. And if I hover, you can see that has the pay item. If I hover over a structure, that has the pay item. Let's look at how we can extract these. I will come up and click the takeoff button again. And I am going to, instead of doing summary means that we're extracting all quantities, whether they're individual count, linear, or area. I could do a detailed summary or a detailed extraction here, and I could isolate my extraction to any one of those three things. So let's go detailed, and then I'm going to tie this to a selection set. I am just going to, for right now, we'll grab just these three objects, or those two pipes and those three structures. And then note that if we want to, we can limit the extents of the extraction to a station range. And I can assign that here with the alignment. I can do my report outputs. It's because if I do detailed, it'll give me some station and offset information. I can say if we're using station and offset, let's tie that to the first street alignment. I'll click compute. And since I am doing a detailed extraction, here's where you can see detailed area, detailed count, detailed linear. I'm going to choose detailed linear for this example. And here you can see the pay item ID for those two pipes. There's the description. There's the linear footage of the pipes. There's the baseline they're tied to, start, or the stationing of the start and end, and the offset for the start and end. So just some additional things that you can get from your extractions if you want to. Now, one more thing, when it comes to extracting quantities for utilities, we can adjust those in the settings as well. If I go to the settings button, right here is where I can control pipe length. By default, that's set to center, but we could also do inside edges or length, just like we can with our labeling. We can also set that to 3D or 2D lengths if we want to. And there's some additional settings here that you can adjust. Okay, dangerously close. If you'd like more information about this topic, Civil 3D includes a bunch of tutorials that walk through even more than what we showed here. You can find the tutorials by clicking the button just to the right of the help button and come down and choose tutorials. Here's where you can find a ton of tutorials that are included out of the box with Civil 3D with the installation. I'm going to come down to material calculation tutorials. And then you can see there's three options here: earthwork, mass haul, and then calculating and reporting quantities. I'll select that. And you can see that there are 6 exercise files that walk through using the quantity takeoff functionality. And if you open these up, it includes the documentation. It even includes the exercise files, and it'll take you right to where the exercise files are located. So if you'd like more information, that's where you can get it. I'm going to jump back to my PowerPoints here real quick. And today we talked about a ton of things. We talked about the QTO Manager. We talked about pay item files, how they're managed using the pay item file, the categorization file, and the formula file. We looked at how we could create our own pay item files. We looked at how we could apply formulas if we want to. We looked at how we could extract that data into quantity reports. We looked at how we could automate the process by preloading pay items on our parts lists or in code set styles. I also showed you how you can access additional resources to get more information about this command. And based on the time, let me say, if we have any questions that have gone unanswered at this point, we will get back to you with an answer. On behalf of Jerry Bartels, Angel Espinosa, and Alan Gilbert, and myself, let me say thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your time. We hope you find these sessions to be valuable, and we look forward to seeing you guys again at the next 30-minute workout. Thanks.